I mean, technically, is it considered dropping? Because she kind of fell out of my hands. I didn't drop her. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I was supposed to show you guys a DIY, but unfortunately the DIY that I did turned out horribly. Why am I not surprised? So this is a story that happened about 8 years ago when I was about 15 years old, and I had to babysit my little niece because my mom was going to pick up my sister from work, and at the time my sister didn't have a car, so my mom had to go pick her up. I was left home with my niece. My niece at the time was about one and a half years old. She's about 9 years now. So my niece wakes up, and so I pick her up and I start cradling her so that way she would go back to sleep. And I thought that I would turn on the TV to watch, you know, obviously some TV. And I am very weird about turning on the TV because I always like to turn on the TV manually and then grab the remote second and flip through the channels. So I turn on the TV with my niece still in my hands, cradling her, trying to rock her to sleep. And the remote is on the floor. So, before I continue with that, have you guys ever had a full glass of water and went to go pick something up and totally forgot that you had the glass of water in your hand? And so you go bend down to pick it up and then some water spills? Yes? Okay. Because that is what happened with my little niece. She was in my hands, perfectly fine. She wasn't crying even though she just woke up. And I go to bend down to pick up the remote, which is on the floor, and as I bend down, she somehow gets out of my hand and she does a full 360 flip. And really, I am surprised that she's not in gymnastics or she's not like a tumbler, because she did a very graceful 360 flip out of my hand, and she falls to the floor. And I panic. She starts crying uncontrollably, and she's just crying, and I'm just freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just dropped my little niece on the floor. I mean, I don't know if this story is relatable or not. And so yeah, she falls on the floor, and she starts crying, and so I frantically look up on my phone, what do you do when you drop a baby? Surprisingly, there is a lot of information on what to do when you drop a baby. I mean, I don't know, I guess this is the world we live in where people are just dropping babies left and right, that you're able to Google what to do when you drop a baby. But luckily, I found some information on what to do when you drop your baby, and that sounds weird just saying that, doesn't it? And it basically said just make sure they don't go to sleep, because then if they have concussion it could be bad for them. And so I just go ahead and make her a bottle of milk and give it to her. And at that point she's okay, she stops crying, and then I take out the bottle when I see her starting to drift away into like a sleep. And then I put it back in her mouth, and I keep doing that for maybe I don't know, 30 minutes until my mom and my sister come home. And when they come home, I don't tell them what I did or how my little niece fell or how I dropped her. I mean, technically, is it considered dropping? Because she kind of fell out of my hands. I didn't drop her. When you drop something, it's more like you let go of it, or, you know, when you drop that ass on the floor. That I would consider more like dropping. In my sense, I feel like she kind of just flew out of my hands, or she kind of just tumbled out of my hands. Because to say I dropped her just doesn't sound really nice. I like to say that she like flew out of my hands. It sounds a little more graceful. You know, I like to describe it as my little niece flew out of my hands and did a 360 flip, crashing to the floor. Technically, it was her fault. She didn't land it. You know, I would have given her a 10 if she would have landed on the floor, but instead, she fell on the floor. So really, is it my fault? Is it my responsibility? I don't know. But anyways, my little niece is great. She's good. She is 9 years old now. She has no brain damage. She does good in school. So I would say that this is definitely a nice story. I mean, I told my family about 2 years ago about me dropping her. It's definitely a nice story to bring up around family dinners, you know, like, oh, remember that one time when I dropped Jaden, which is my little niece's name, And yeah, so that is my Tuesday video for the week. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, but most importantly, make sure you subscribe so that way you get videos every week.